Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakadash. Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles at Great Millstone. Peace, blessings, honors to all the brothers, spreading this truth, doing the work. I was reading First Maccabees and something had popped out to me when reading First Maccabees. Really it was the story in it about a man called, I don't want to butcher his name, but Mattathias, and this had really caught my attention. The spirit of him. Now it goes on to talk about his sons and stuff like that, but the spirit of this man was kind of like relating back to today. Us living in today, you kind of gotta have the spirit of Mattathias. You gotta have that same kind of spirit because, I mean, going into the story, I'm gonna actually read it, but going into the story, the way that he was like pretty much like, I'm not gonna worship any false gods, I don't care if you trying to put us to death. Like the whole world's doing it. So when you look at the time period we're in right now, we got the whole world that's being wicked, but we're the ones stepping up with that same spirit that he has, saying, we're not gonna worship these false gods. We are gonna follow the law, statutes, commandments, and worship the only one and the true God, the only one that really exists. We're going to worship that one. We're going to worship the law, statutes, and commandments, even if it's contrary to the whole world. Then Yahweh Shai say the world should be offended. So even though the world's going to be offended by what we're saying, the truth that we're bringing out, we're still going to worship the truth no matter what, even though we're a very small minority, because, that's why it says the elect. We're a remnant. We're just a small amount that's going to be saved. 2/3 of our own people are going to be destroyed. So 1/3 is a minority. So even with that, and then 144,000 elect is even more of a smaller number. So we got that same spirit that Mattathias had in First Maccabees. We got that same spirit. Let me read a little bit of it before I really give it away. But I was looking online and I tried to find some information about him. This is what they had on Wikipedia. It says, I'll read it. After the Sessenton persecutions began, Mattathias returned to Modin, and this was 167 BCE, and when asked by I guess that word is Seleucid Greek government representative under Emperor Antiochus. Here, let me scan through here. Well, pretty much he was asked by the emperor to sacrifice into Greek gods, which I'm gonna read that in the scriptures too. But it says he not only refused to do so, but slew with his own hand the Jew who had stepped forward to do so. So he really had that spirit on him. Like they asked him to worship Greek gods, and he was like, "Man, I ain't doing it." And he actually went farther to go and slew them. And he pretty much did a whole it was like a whole he gathered together all the Israelites and he went to war. A whole revolt. And the thing is like we don't have that spirit today. We have men that came and tried, like Martin Luther King, but the way he was trying to do it, he was trying to include the heathen. He was actually going against it. He was trying to make us become one with the heathen. Kind of like the Tower of Babel or Babylon. He was going with that, which was completely wicked. If he was truly reading the Bible like he say, that he would have known that. Then you have Malcolm X that came, and he tried to get us to. He kind of had the same spirit of Mattathias when he first started, but then eventually, when he got pretty much kicked out or whatever, and then or he had got demoted, or pretty much they told him to shut up. Pretty much he couldn't teach no more because of some of the things that he had said something about Kennedy, and when he had said something about Kennedy, the whole world had loved Kennedy at that time. So Islam told him, pretty much hush it up and stuff like that. And that led down, a rabbit hole. And then eventually he went over there to the Mecca and he came back talking about this everybody shit. But at first he had the same spirit of Mattathias too. This is the context that they said. They said this was the first steps in the Maccabean revolt. the result of which was Jewish independence, Jews independent, which had not been enjoyed for more than 400 years. The event of the War of the Maccabees from the bias of the holiday of, they say Hanukkah, which is celebrated by the Jews on the 25th. Okay, so that's just going into, more of the wicked stuff that Esau be putting up and stuff like that. But I'm going to get into the scriptures and read about Mattathias. This is First Maccabees, starting at verse chapter 2. It says, "In those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simon, a priest of the son of Jerib in Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin." So they say their Modin is different on here, but in the scriptures it says Modin. And he had 5 sons, right? Jonah, called Cadus, Simon, called Thessius, Judas, who was called Maccabees. So that's Judas. Eleazar, called Ivan, and Jonathan, whose surname was Apis, right? And when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, he said, "Woe unto me, wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, to dwell there when it was delivered into the hands of the enemy, and the sanctuaries into the hand of strangers." So how is that any more different than today? Our land is delivered into the hands of our enemies and strangers, and when we was born, especially like in the brothers that go down to camp, the brothers that do this word, and keep the law, statutes, commandments, when we was born, we seen the miseries of our people, being in the hood, seeing your people at the bottom, seeing your people living next to roaches, rats, barely being able to eat, stomach hungry, seeing your people get shot down in the streets, seeing your people get took to jail left and right, not having no future. They say about 21 you're supposed to be dead or in jail. So we seen the miseries of our people, just like Mattathias, and end of the holy city, and to dwell there when it was delivered into the hands of the enemy. So we can't even go back to the holy city. Some brothers travel over there, but as a nation, if we see what they're doing over there, we see those wicked Amalekites over there, and they constantly at war, because the Lord said he had war with Amalek generation to generation, and they constantly at war. The Philistines coming up against them. Iran wants to kill them. I mean, everybody want to get rid of them except for this wicked Edomites, which they are Edomites. Verse 8, "Her temple is become as a man without glory. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the street. Her young men with the sword of the enemy." So even with us being over here in Mystery Babylon, America, we see our young ones slain in the streets. You got what's the boy named George Zimmerman that killed, our young ones getting killed in the street. There's plenty of stories of our young ones getting killed in the street. Mike Brown, her young man with the sword of the enemy. So that's the same thing we see here in America today. We getting shot down in the streets. We getting slain by their sword. Keep going. What nation has not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils, right? That's self-explanatory. What nation on earth, you can't name one. "And her ornaments are taken away of a free woman. She is become a bond slave." So when they're saying free woman, it's likening the whole Israel as a woman. We go back into that marriage with the Lord. We're gonna play the part of a wife and being back married to the Lord. But she has become a bond slave. We all know about the slavery of the Native Americans, the blacks, the Mexicans, all our people, all Israelites, right? "And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. And what end therefore shall we live any longer?" Then Mattathias and his sons rent their clothes and put sackcloth and mourn very sore. So that's what we do today, us Israelites. We rent our clothes, we put our garments on. We put, which is the same as putting our sackcloth on, because we become humble, we become meek, and we mourn. We send those prayers up to the Lord. We go out on the streets, we mourn our people, we teach our people. We cry out loud like a lion. In the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city of Modin to take them sacrifice, right? And when many of Israel came into the Mattathias also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on the wise, Thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brethren, right? So like, just like us getting a camp, we all start coming together, we start getting stronger that way. Now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandments, like as all the heathen had done, yea, and the man of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem, so shall thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friend, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards. So, this is what a lot of wicked Jake to do today. He said, come and worship, but you're going to be the king's friend. So what come with being the king's friend. You're going to be honored, and like I said, with silver and gold. So you're going to get money, and you're going to get many rewards. So you see Jake today, what Jake today would do. They want to be rappers, entertainers, and athletes. But in order to be that, they come, they worship Esau, they worship the things that Esau got, and they ultimately bow down and they pledge their allegiance to, Esau. And then with doing that, then they're able to get that silver and gold, and stuff like that. And, they come to us like that. I'm pretty sure, they came to a lot of camps, and a lot of camps go off like that. We ain't gonna say no names, but here at GMS, we holding strong. You can't find no hoes in us, as not as a body. Individuals, that go on and go off and stuff, but as a body, man, you can't find no hoes with us. But a lot of these different camps, they be going off, and they took this deal from Esau. But it's pretty much, the heathen coming to make a deal. He said, and he said the man of Judah also. So like during Mattathias' time, a lot of Judites and a lot of Israel had already gave over to this, and sat down and worship, and they stopped worshiping their gods, the one and only true God. They stopped worshiping Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, and they started worshiping these Greek gods. But Mattathias and his people, and his brothers and his sons and stuff like that, was still worshiping and doing in the truth. Verse 19. And then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice through all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him. So he like, all right, all these nations under the king's dominion obey him, and fall away everyone from the religions of their father, and give consent to his commandments. And in verse 20, he said, Yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenants of our fathers, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. So he was strong, He knew that this was going to start an out war, and they was going to try to kill him. But he said, man, look, we going to worship Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. And this also goes to the hour of temptation, too. Because Esau gonna come to you like, look, man, we got this chip, we got whatever new God, or we don't believe in God no more, we believe in this system or whatever system that they try to do. Or they might try to do like a Project Blue Beam and say some aliens came out the sky with a name and say that this is the true God. They might try to do something like that and come to us as strong brothers in this truth Israelites and say, look, man, you gotta worship this, and you can't worship that no more. And then you got to be like Mattathias. You got to have the spirit of Mattathias. You got to say, like he said, Yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. Right? 21. God forbid that we shall forsake the laws and the ordinance. So going into the even more, verse 22. He would not hearken to the king's word to go from our religion, either on the right hand or left hand, So he said, man, and he said, verse 23, he said, Now when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar which was at Modin, according to the king's commandments. Which thing when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal. So Mattathias saw, he said, man, you going off, man. He rebuked him, he was inflamed. And his reins trembled, neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon an altar. So Mattathias was such a strong man, that he was so much in the spirit. He was so much inflamed. He was so mad at seeing this Israelite over here worshiping these false gods and sacrificing the false gods, that he just couldn't hold it in, man. These men were strong men back then. They not soft like a lot of the 2/3 today. So he said, man, he couldn't hold it in. He went up there and killed him. That's what it means to say, and he slew him upon the altar. He went up there, he couldn't hold it in. He killed him on the altar, man. You gotta have the spirit of, you gotta have the spirit of Mattathias, and it's not really necessarily that you physically gotta go kill him, man. But you see a Jake out here, he worshiping these false gods, and he to all these different religions and philosophies. Man, you gotta tear him down spiritually, because sometimes he gotta be teared down spiritually in order to be rebuilt back up. Because ultimately, what you're doing is you're tearing down those demons on him. So you rebuking those demons on him, man. Sometimes you gotta jump in you gotta jump in his ass real quick. Jump on his ass real quick. Sometimes you gotta jump on his ass real quick and just rebuke him sharply, to get those demons off of him. But Mattathias during that time, he went up and killed the man. And also the king's commissioner, right, who compelled man to sacrifice, he killed at that time. In the altar, he pulled down, so he killed the king. Man, look, this is the king's commissioner. He killed that man, and he killed the king's commissioner, knowing what was going to go behind it. But that's how much of a rider he was for the Lord. That's how much of a rider he was. He was ready to risk it all, man. And they inflamed him so much that he killed them, and he said, man, forget the consequences. The Lord going to take care of us. And that shows you that his faith. So he was willing to do that for the Lord, for this truth. That shows you that he had tremendous faith, right? And then it says 26, thus that he zealously for the law of God, like Phineas did unto Zambri and the son of Salam. And Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me. So he, throughout the whole throughout the whole city, he went around recruiting people, kind of like how we do at camp. And he was like, man, look, whoever is so is zealous of the law, so whoever is so want to follow the law, statutes, commandments, and retaineth the covenant, let him follow me. So he had the same spirit back then, and it relates to what we doing today. With keeping the covenant and with camp, we go down there and we fishermen. We telling people, you gotta follow those statute commandments. If you want to be in this, hey, meet us here at this time every week, and you could try to get into a camp. So Mattathias had that same spirit, right? So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city, right? The many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there, right? Both they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because afflictions increased sore upon them. And that goes, and that's that's gonna be a future prophecy that's gonna happen on us. The scriptures say it, like in 2nd Address, the 16th chapter, 15th in the 16th chapter. It's those afflictions are gonna increase on us in these times for the same reasons they increased on Mattathias. It's for the same reasons, because look, he said everybody that want to follow the law, statutes, commandments follow us. Well, we do that at camp. We doing that today, right? But they had to flee into the mountains. Well, here pretty soon we are able to do the work right now, but when the famine of the word come and Esau comes in like a great flood on us, and men are getting beheaded, men are getting picked up, and we can't teach the word no more, and it's that time, you might have to flee, like in Matthew chapter 25. That relates back to Daniel the 12th chapter. So a lot of brothers might have to be in the wilderness. A lot of Akim, we always talk about it. Apostle Tahar was just talking about it, like grab you a tent, possibly. Stock up on a little extra food. Get ready, because you might be homeless for this truth. Just like they was homeless. They had to flee into the mountains, right? And they left all the things they had. So if you, brother, you got nice cars, you're going to have to leave your nice cars. You're going to have to leave your house. You're going to have to leave your nice furniture that you just bought. The nice couch living room set that you just bought that cost you $1,500 that you just bought before all this, you're gonna have to leave that. You're gonna have to leave it because how much stuff can you carry? You're gonna have to leave majority of your things, that you got at home that you might have stock of. You're gonna have to flee into the mountains. You're gonna have to flee into the wilderness, man. You know, where they dwelt at. And it says, he took his children, his wives, the cattle, because the afflictions increased sore upon them. So those afflictions are going to increase sore on everybody here pretty soon, because Jacob's trouble, which also relates back to Daniel, the 12th chapter. But, with Jacob's trouble in Jeremiah, the 30th chapter, afflictions are going to increase sore upon us, just like they did on him. In verse 31, now when it was told the king's servant and the host that was at Jerusalem in the city of David, that certain men who had broken the king's commandment were gone down into secret places in the wilderness, they pursued after them a great number, and having overtaken them, they camped against them and made war against them on the Sabbath day. So, yeah, the king, and see, Mattathias, he knew that all this was going to happen. He knew that the king was going to come after him. That's why they fled. And the king did exactly what, Mattathias predicted he was going to do. And they came after them and made war against them. Verse 33, and they said unto them, let that which ye had done hither suffice, come forth and do according to the commandment of the king, and ye should live. But they said, we will not come forth, neither will we do the king's commandments to profane the Sabbath day. And that's the spirit. You got to have that same spirit, because they going to come at you like, take this implant chip, take the mark of the beast, and you gotta kind of gotta say the same thing Mattathias said. You gotta say, no, we will not take the chip. We're gonna follow the law, statutes, and commandments, man. And then the Esau's gonna come after you, trying to kill you, and you gotta say, I don't care. And but later on with Mattathias, they kind of started to build up armies, build up man, and they kind of started to go to war. And Mattathias, he, even though the odds was against him, he prayed to the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, and he asked, to be with him during those wars, that they could win, or to make the other man on the heathen, to make them weak, or, cowards, so they could take them down in battle. And he ended up doing that. He ended up taking down a lot of different, he ended up winning a lot of different battles and a lot of different wars, and stuff like that, and getting Israel back on the right track. He ended up doing that, setting up the altars, setting up, worshiping the true Lord and keeping the law, statutes, commandments, because he had that spirit, This is another precept. This is Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. This one says, no man could serve two masters, for either he will hate the one or love the other, or else he will hold to one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. So it's the same thing. Mattathias, he said, I can't serve two masters. He said, I can't serve the king, or I don't care who he is. I gotta serve God. If the king's commandments are not lining up with Yahweh's commandments, then I can't serve him. Just like Matthew's 6 say, no man can serve two masters. And this is coming from Yahushua. No man can serve two masters, because either you're gonna hate one and love the other. So I'd rather serve Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua and love Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua and hate the heathen, because you can't serve two masters, So you gonna end up despising one. So what side would you rather be on? See, that's the great thing about the mark of the beast, because it's going to make you choose a side. You're going to choose a side, man. You're going to choose either you on Esau's side and you riding for the Edomites, or you on Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai side, which is Israel, Jacob's side. So whose side you choosing? You on Jacob's side or you on Esau's side? Be wise, man, because the scriptures tell you what's going to happen. So you kind of got to have that same spirit of Mattathias. You got to have that same rebellion spirit against this system, this wicked system. And you got to have that same righteous spirit to keep the law, statutes, and commandments, and make sure that we do it as a nation, You got to have that, because only the elect going to be saved, the 1/3 and the multitude, but 2/3 going to be dealt with, So that's why we say salvation to the elect. You want to leave it there, Shalom. Keep pushing this truth.